Bonjour Yefo, comment ça va? How are you? Hope you're well. Today in your French lesson, we're going to be continuing on with our learning about les crêpes and les crêperies. So you guys are going to get the chance today to design your own menu for a crêperie, so like a crepe shop, so that next week when we do the live lessons, we are going to be able to use these menus to then practice a little dialogue so we can order from a crepe stand, so that if you ever do go to France or Lebanon or Canada or wherever else they speak French, Belgium as well, and you see a crêperie, then you can order exactly what you want. So before I give you your instructions on making your crepe menu, there's one little activity that I want you to do, okay? So I'm going to show you in a minute my crepe menu that I spent ages designing on this design app called Canva. And I have 9 questions that I want you guys to try and answer about my menu, okay? So if I put it on the screen now, so you'll see on the right here, this is the menu that I designed. And your first question that you have to figure out is, what is the name of the crêperie? So you need to look at the menu, figure out what the name is, and write it in, okay? So I'm going to leave you now to have a quick look at my menu and then try and work through these 9 questions, which are all asking something about the menu. So even if you cannot understand everything on this menu, you should be able to use what you've learned so far to try and figure out these answers, because I said this last week, but when you're learning a language, you do not need to understand every single word. You need to try and develop the skill of figuring out what things mean. Even if you've never seen that word before, you can use kind of clues to try and work out what words mean in a language, okay? So I'm going to leave this with you now. If you pause the video here and try to work your way through, and then once you're finished, you can press play and we'll talk through the answers together. Okay, so hopefully you guys have now finished all your questions, feeling confident with your answers, and we will talk through them now. So the first one said, what is the name of the crêperie? And the name was La Crêperie de Paris. So if you just wrote Crêperie de Paris, that's fine. If you wrote the Crêperie of Paris, if you translated it into English, that's fine, okay? So you can give yourself a tick for that. Okay, what is une crêpe au chocolat? Hopefully that one was pretty straightforward. We did talk a bit about that in last lesson when I was showing you what you can put on your crepes. And it was simply a chocolate crepe. So if you got that, give yourself a tick. Or a chocolate pancake. If you have translated crepe at any time as pancake, that's also fine. So, number 3, how much does a jam crepe cost? A jam crepe was une crêpe à la confiture, which is again what we learned about last week. And a jam crepe cost €5 on our menu. How do you say savoury crepes in French? So you'd have had to look to find the title of all the crepes that are savoury. So you've got here, for example, you've got a cheese crepe, a salmon crepe, a mushroom crepe, and a goat's cheese crepe. So you can use that to work out that this must mean then savoury crepe. So savoury crepe is les crêpes salées, okay? So what does les boissons mean? Okay, so let's look at les boissons, and it says un café, un coca, un jus d'orange, and de l'eau. These are all what? These are all drinks. So les boissons means the drinks. How much extra is it to add whipped cream? So let's look on the ajouter, which means we learnt last week means add. And you can add a bunch of things, but what we're looking for is whipped cream. So we can kind of guess that cream is this one at the bottom, crème, because it looks quite similar. So cream, to add whipped cream, it's going to be another €2. So give yourself a tick if you got that right. Then it says, what flavour ice creams can you add? So if we go on the add column again, you'll see there's two flavours of ice cream. La glace is the word for ice cream. And you can see that you can add either vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream. So those are your two flavors. Then it says, what day does the creperie close the earliest? So let's look at our opening hours. And the earliest day we can see is the third one down, which is Wednesday, because that closes at 2 p.m. And in France, they use the 24-hour clock, which is why the closing times look like this, okay? And that is because in France, they use the 24-hour clock. So instead of saying, for example, let's meet at 6 p.m., they would say, let's meet at 18 o'clock, which was very confusing for me when I used to live in France. I would always get very confused by that. So anyway, the creperie closes the earliest on Wednesday, because mercredi is Wednesday. And then the final one was, what is the most expensive crepe? You should have put a salmon crepe. So well done if you got those all right, guys. That's amazing work. Like I said, in languages, you don't need to understand every word to be able to understand what's going on. So very well done if you got all those. And now it's over to you guys. It's your turn to create your menu, okay? So I am going to let you be as creative with this as you would like. You obviously first need to choose the name of your creperie. So I did mine as La Crêperie de Paris, which is the creperie of Paris, but you might want to do it of Dubai or something else. You might want to call it your family name. You can really make it however you would like in terms of the design and things. For me, the most important thing is the French, okay? So making sure that, for example, all our spellings are perfect, and you can use my example to help you. That, for example, the sweet crepes are under the heading sweet crepes, and we don't have savoury crepes under there. That we've got, if you look at the success criteria here, I have included at least 3 options for sweet crepes and 3 for savoury crepes on my menu. I've added a drink section on my menu. That's very important, because if you are having especially like a savoury crepe, you're going to get thirsty, so you need a drink. And if I'm having a sweet crepe, I definitely want a coffee with it. So making sure we're adding drinks on there, making sure we've added prices for all of our items. That's also very important, because 9 times out of 10, if something doesn't have a price on it, it's going to be a lot more than what you bargained for. So make sure your customers can see what their prices are, and that way they'll know what they're getting themselves into. Again, like I said, make sure your spellings are accurate, and also make sure you've added your opening time so people know when they can come, because there's nothing worse than planning to go somewhere and then you show up and it's closed, okay? So you need to make sure you've got the opening hours as well. So like I said, please put as much effort as you can into this. Make it, your best piece of work, so that next week we can use it to film our dialogues. Your French lessons should take up about a 40-minute slot, so you still do have half an hour at least to spend on it. And if you want to spend a little bit more time outside of French doing it, then you can do as well, okay? So once you've done that, can you please upload a picture of it onto Seesaw so I can see your brilliant work, can see how creative you have been at home. And next week, like I said, we will use these in the live lessons, which will be really nice, to create like a little dialogue to order some French crepes. So I'll leave you guys to it, and other than that, I will see you guys next week. Au revoir.